DogDay is the last surviving smiling critter, apart from Catnap, which means Catnap probably killed all of them. There are many small smiling critters that the protagonist encounters, but by the looks of it, the main mascots who were involved in larger buddies initiatives were 8, of which only Catnap and DogDay remain. Saying that, there's not much of DogDay that actually remains, as half of his body is missing, and he is having a pose as if being crucified, knowing very well that Catnap is a psychotic entity who set up his own religious cult, where the prototype is at its epicenter, being its god. He elaborates that he, alongside many other dolls, disobeyed the prototype and did not agree with his brutal extermination of all the employees, which gave them the title of heretics, the ones who go against the righteous path in the Catnap's perspective, which leads to Catnap going on another mass massacre, killing anyone who doesn't obey the prototype or are not under his control. Poor DogDay suffers a horrible punishment, having half of his body chewed off while still being imprisoned, suffering every day. By the time the protagonist gets to DogDay, he explains how it is too late already for him, and despite knowing he will die, DogDay's selfless persona and qualities revealed on how he still cares about the innocent, telling the protagonist to leave him behind and rescue the others as it is too late for him. Accordingly, the little smiling critters which have been manipulated by Catnap invade DogDay's body, crawling inside him, taking control of his body and mind, who becomes hostile instantly, chasing after the protagonist. At this point, it's very likely that DogDay passed away and he is just a corpse which the little smiling critters can control. This reveals the horrifying way these little entities can take over a motionless body, animating it and somehow managing to control each body part as if the corpse is alive. They don't just senselessly carry and drag the body, but rather invade the host body and its mind like a parasite, fully taking control as if taking the driver's seat. Knowing that the dolls have been surgically given life by replacing vital organs of the test subjects inside them, you might be wondering how DogDay is still alive having his lower body chewed off. Well, there seems to be some sort of a tourniquet of some kind, stopping the excessive blood loss, preventing him from dying. So by the looks of it and how fresh the blood is, with the tourniquet still on, it's very likely DogDay was just very recently restrained and imprisoned, as otherwise, having a tourniquet is a temporary measure until further corrections and surgeries are performed to save someone's life and stop the blood loss. And also, if they have digestive system, it's quite questionable how he does his business, missing his lower half. So in my opinion, DogDay was whether acting as a spy, living amongst the hostile dolls, lying of his true intentions of how he wants to betray them, which upon discovery, Catnap attacked him and punished him as a traitor, leaving him in the prison cell crucified as an example of what happens to heretics or the opposers. Another likely possibility is that he was in hiding and was found suffering the same punishment. But I believe pretending to be on the prototype side and then being discovered to have been a spy all along, being a traitor and essentially betraying them, it is more fitting to his punishment, being put on display to show others what happens to heretics, especially as it seems to have happened just recently. Maybe this is a deliberate and direct message to Puppy, Kissy Missy, the protagonist and all the other dolls of what will happen to them as punishment and retaliation. Despite his cruel punishment, DogDay didn't lose his courage and soul, still standing on the right side that the prototype is wrong. So it seems Ollie might have been one of the originals who worked alongside Puppy to find their angel, to liberate them. As Puppy explains, if any doll even would dare to run away, they would meet a deadly fate under the prototype's hands. So they are forced to stay in and obey him. Therefore, Ollie, working with Puppy, they decide to work with other dolls, with the smiling critters joining them, especially DogDay, who try for years to find a way out and save the others, who one by one meet their end under Catnap's hands, being the vessel for the prototype. So by what DogDay says and his appearance, it's very likely he just was punished for his crimes of being against the prototype. That's what happens to Kessimesi as well at the end of the chapter, as they just happen to reveal their true intentions of wanting to run away and help others. She gets attacked when left alone, with Puppy and the protagonist going further down. Puppy, on the other hand, seemed to have a clear goal of breaking out and helping others, hence why she was put away inside her box when she went into a deep sleep or hibernation, kept away and guarded by Huggy Wuggy, the very first level of security to stop any intruders or dolls even from freeing her. It's not very clear why Catnap or the prototype didn't just kill her upon discovering she's a heretic, but maybe she is very valuable and important for them to just kill her. Maybe she even carries the essence of life for all the dolls, the puppy flower, hence why instead of being killed, she was safely put away to be in a state of deep sleep. Now, the question is, to what extent does the prototype's control over the dolls go? It's easy to believe and think the only way he takes control over the dolls is psychological, as we have evidence over evidence on how each doll was convinced to work with him. Catnap, being originally Theodore Gramble, an orphan child who didn't have any friends or family, was rescued by the prototype and shown affection and care, hence why he became his most devoted follower, completely attached to him. For some other dolls, they followed the cause of the prototype as they saw the cruelty of the adults and the scientists, seeing them for the real evil demons that they are, following anyone who fights against them, no matter how far they go. On the other hand, many dolls were indifferent, but because the prototype was the only character who could free them, they followed his cause not to starve to death, knowing he has control over the food supply, which could be the last remaining employees, the remaining corpses which might be stored in some way not to be decomposed, or even the orphans. And finally, the last psychological method to control is through fear, with Catnap attacking and killing anyone who doesn't follow him, and scaring all the dolls to follow the prototype and obey him. Mr. Light even mentions how badly she wanted to kill the prototype after being trapped in the school, having to fight and eat her co-workers whom she treated like sisters in order to survive. So we know the way the prototype controls the others is through force, manipulation, or fear. But one last way remains, which we see with DogDay. You could essentially say DogDay dies as soon as the small smiling critters crawl inside him, but as a result, he becomes controlled by them. So according to this, another way the prototype could control the dolls is through the small smiling critters who crawl inside host bodies and quite literally take over their minds like parasites. For the small smiling critters, however, the way they are controlled is their excruciating hunger, which Catnap promises to satiate if they follow him. As DogDay explains, they eat to fill what they lack inside them.
These little toys follow Catnap to avoid that very fate, and in return, they are fed. We try to fight it, the prototype's control. I am the last of the smiling critters. Listen to me. You need to get out of this place. You need to live. You and Poppy could fix this. End this madness. The torment.
Another motivator is that if these little smiling critters don't follow Catnap's orders, they will surely get killed and eaten, like how we saw many being impaled or killed in the trailers. So the smiling critters seem to have been gifted DogDay, being strapped to the wall as a reward for their obedience. They correspondingly crawl inside DogDay and consume him from inside out, as we hear DogDay how he struggles and suffers, gargling in his own blood, losing his voice box and eventually control over his frail and weak body. So, what are your thoughts? What really happened to DogDay? Was it a recent event, or has he been chained to the wall for a long time? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, it's been your host Star, and I will see you on the next video.